Welcome back. The Mad Hatter is one of the most iconic B-tier villains in Batman's illustrious rogues gallery. His distinct gimmick of loving hats and being obsessed with Alice in Wonderland, combined with his unique look, has made him one of the most recognisable foes in Gotham. However, beneath that goofy exterior is one of the most harrowing of Gotham City's most wanted. I also just wanted to add in, before we get into this, that as a kid I thought Lewis Carroll, the author of the original Alice in Wonderland, stole Hatter from Lego Batman. Seriously. Anyway, in the Arkham series, he's no different, and today we'll go through his full story, from humble beginnings to his thankfully brutal end. As with all of these lore videos though, the footage on screen often won't match what I'm saying, due to a fair amount of this stuff happening off screen, so I'll either do my best to match, or just throw on some entertaining gameplay while you listen. If you enjoy this video, there's a playlist with more lore videos on the channel, and without further ado, sit back, relax, grab yourself a channel membership, and put on your thinking cap. Well, actually, no, don't actually put any hats on for this video, it could be mind controlled. Anyway, let's get into the story of Jervis Tetch, aka the Mad Hatter. From a young age, Jervis Tetch developed an obsession with Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and its sequel, Through the Looking Glass. That fascination never really left him, and as his life went on, it twisted into something much darker. Tetch, a gifted hypnotist in his own right, eventually gave himself over to the delusion that he was not just inspired by Carroll's world, but living in it. In his mind, he was no longer Jervis Tetch, and he was in fact the Mad Hatter. Jervis was once a scientist, obsessed with the idea that free will was nothing more than an illusion, and that the human mind could be bent or outright controlled through the use of chemicals. That line of thinking eventually pulled him into darker territory. Tetch's lifelong fixation with Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland grew into a delusion, and in his mind he was no longer a man at all, but the Hatter. He opened a small hat shop in the Bowery district of Old Gotham, all the while perfecting his experiments in mind control, and above all, fixating on the idea of Alice, the protagonist of Alice in Wonderland. To him, she wasn't a character, but a real girl who had to be out there somewhere wanting to be with him. That obsession pushed him to abduct young women, convinced each time that each one of them might be the true Alice. When they inevitably disappointed him, by not being Alice, he murdered them. Among his victims was a girl called Stephanie Williams, although the GCPD never managed to pin the crime on him, with Tetch being sneaky and covering his tracks. All of this took place before the night of Christmas Eve in Batman's second year in Gotham, and when Jervis found another girl he believed to be Alice, his technology had already advanced and his devices could override weaker minds entirely, reducing people to his puppets, and with them he built himself a gang to serve his schemes. But that wasn't enough, because in the words of Nate Dogg, it's never enough. Tetch's madness eventually turned to Gotham's newest figure, the Batman, and he'd obsess over his unique hat. If he could bend criminals so easily, why not bend the will of the Dark Knight himself? To Jervis, Batman was just waiting to be claimed. To lure Batman into his game on the night of Christmas Eve in the events of Arkham Origins, Jervis would send 3 of his henchmen directly to the Dark Knight's location. How did he know where he was? Who knows, and who cares? The 3 men, being controlled by rabbit hats, delivered the invitation to his tea party by singing a warped nursery rhyme set to the tune of London Bridges Falling Down. Once they finished their part, Jervis showed his own brand of cruelty by electrocuting them on the spot, presumably killing them. Back at his hat shop in the Bowery, Jervis was hard at work perfecting his army of hypnotised henchmen. He rambled about how he had gone ignored most of his life, how no one had ever truly listened to him, and now at last he had the attention he felt he deserved. Yet even here his delusions showed cracks. His henchmen failed to address him properly, and rather than admit the futility of it all, he convinced himself his brainwashing devices still needed tuning. That was when Batman arrived. He took down Tetch's reluctant followers with ease, demanding to know where Alice was. Instead of answering, Jervis turned to his most dangerous weapon, his annoying-ass voice, and with a few hypnotic words and a clock, he pushed Batman's mind into Wonderland. Inside one of the most visually unnerving and also kind of beautiful parts of the entire franchise, Tetch set puzzle after puzzle before bats, forcing Batman to fight through twisted illusions that blurred the line between game and nightmare. But in the end, the Dark Knight's will was too strong. He shattered the illusion, dragging himself back into reality, where he found Jervis holding the girl hostage with a knife. Batman, clearly having played Arkham City before coming out on patrol, launched a remote control reverse batarang and knocked the weapon out of the the Hatter's hand before he could strike and knock him out. The girl collapsed into tears, shaken by the trauma of what she had endured under his mind control, but she was safe at last. Batman called the GCPD to collect Tetch, though in the chaos of that Christmas Eve with the Joker's scheme unravelling across the city, the police didn't actually arrive that night and she'd be collected the following day. This is one of the hardest missions to endure the aftermath of in the series, and one of its darker moments in general. Nothing is outright stated, but a small interaction between the girl and Batman tells us all we need to know, and the implications are harrowing to say the least. We will come back to this later, but I'll let the conversation play out now.
Don't worry, you're safe now. The police are on their way. Everything's going to be all right.
No, it's not.
These implications bleed over into the next time Batman and Jervis meet, but for now let's carry on with the story as we enter the time period between Arkham Origins and Arkham Asylum, which is a little confusing because a large focal point of this story is between Hugo Strange and Jervis, but rest assured this portion takes place between Origins and Asylum. Tetch's name was spread as a symbol of madness. His madness became so infamous that even among Blackgate prisoners his reputation was huge. One escapee was overheard admitting he feared being locked up with quote-unquote the crazy ones like the Mad Hatter. The Mad Hatter was most likely transferred to Arkham Asylum once Quincy Sharp reopened the facility, though it is just as likely that Tetch escaped Blackgate for a time before being tracked down by Batman and brought here. Whatever the case, Sharp, revolted by the man's crimes, had him buried deep within the asylum and swore he would never see the light of day again. It was here that Professor Hugo Strange took notice. Strange, already weaving his own plans to seize Gotham, saw in Jervis something more than a lunatic. He saw a tool. He began meeting with Tetch under the guise of quote-unquote psychiatric evaluations, but he was never interested in healing him. Strange was after his mind control technology. He made false promises, feeding Tetch's obsession with Alice and his love for hats, and when that wasn't enough he pressed harder, waving the murders of Stephanie Williams and others like a weapon over his head. Strange manipulated Jervis with precision, really putting the Professor part of his name to work, whispering that Alice was waiting for him, that she would be his if only he finished his work. Tetch refined his formula, his hypnotic control becoming sharper and stronger than even Strange had anticipated. The more quote-unquote forgettable inmates of Arkham became test subjects, their minds stripped away so Strange could perfect his custom army. Soon with Tetch's design, Strange began trying to get into the mind of Quincy Sharp himself. After being drugged and hypnotised, Sharp was made malleable, convinced that he was the spirit of Arkham destined to purge the asylum of its filth, all while unknowingly serving as Strange's puppet. This ties directly back into the Spirit of Arkham chronicles we can hear in Asylum. There were also signs that Strange went even further. Tetch's name appeared on the surgery board in the Asylum, suggesting that Strange may have ordered Dr. Thomas Elliot, aka Hush, to operate on him, reshaping his obedience through rather invasive means. Catwoman herself would later comment that Strange had really done a number on him. Out of this manipulation, though, came the Tiger Guards we see in Arkham City. Former SWAT and military personnel turned Strange's loyal army of brainwashed soldiers. Their wills were burned away by Tetch's stolen technology, and by the time the private army was ready, Strange no longer needed the Hatter. He had stolen his formulas, his devices, and his methods, and perfected them for his own needs. Jervis had outlived his usefulness, so Strange had him return to the depths of Arkham, pacified with a false Alice to keep him docile. Whether Jervis killed her when he discovered the truth or simply let her wither away, no one knows, but what we do know is her fate wouldn't have been kind. In Arkham City, we can actually listen to this all play out, and I'll let it play out now. It tells the story we just learned, but the voice acting and the creepiness of it on Hatter's side is definitely worth a listen for a bit more detail than I can provide.
Patient interview 1. Subject's name, Jervis Tetch, aka the Mad Hatter. Brought to Arkham Asylum by the Batman 6 months ago. Patient exhibits signs of obsessive compulsion and paranoid schizophrenia. Sit down, Mr. Tetch.
But there's no time to sit. I need Alice. Where is my Alice?
Please.
No time to sit, not time to chat. I'm searching for Alice and I've lost my head.
Guard, restrain Mr. Tetch.
Get off me. Get off me. I'm late. I'm running out of time, Alice. Where are you?
Alice isn't here yet. Just relax, Jervis. She will be here soon. I promise.
But
Now, would you like some tea, patient?
is Alice here yet?
No, I'm afraid not. Let us talk while we wait. You and I have much in common, Jervis.
Really? Do you know Alice too?
Unfortunately not. You and I both share an interest in the mind, do we not? I studied your papers, Jervis. You are quite brilliant. Truly an extraordinary mind.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's all just chemicals and synapses and rabbits and... Oh, where is Alice?
You need to focus. Think about your work for a minute. You theorize that there is no such thing as free will, that you can change a man's allegiances, his motives, emotions, all of what we believe makes a man with chemicals. Your formula was really quite brilliant. That's why I used it.
Well, how did you get it? Did Alice give it to you? Wicked girl. Nasty little thing. Is she here yet?
Soon, Jervis, soon.
Is she? Oh, you told me that Alice would be here.
She is, Jervis. She's right here.
Alice? Alice, come out. Don't pout. Don't make me shout. Alice, come out. Where are you?
Take a look at the pictures, Jervis.
Oh, who are these people?
Look again.
Oh, I don't know who they are. Oh, please, is Alice here or not?
Look at the first picture. Look at the dress she is wearing. Look at the hair. It's Alice, isn't it?
No, it can't be Alice. Alice has nice yellow hair and isn't covered in blood.
I think you know exactly who this is, Mr. Tetch. I think you remember the night you lured Stephanie Williams back to your research lab. How you offered her tea. What happened then?
No.
You killed her, didn't you?
No.
She went first. It's okay, Jervis. It's all right to remember. How many Alices were there?
I can't remember. Oh, Alice isn't coming, is she?
That all depends on how you cooperate. I have a little side project that I'm working on. I could use your help.
My help? I can't help. I'll be late.
Stay focused, Jervis. This facility is old, tired, full of ghosts.
Ghosts?
A figure of speech. Do not worry. Arkham Asylum will not exist forever. Its techniques are old, its mission outdated. I intend to create a new Arkham, an Arkham that will rise phoenix-like from the ashes of this one.
Is there a fire? We should get out of here.
I have arranged for some documents to be left in your cell. They outline a technique I propose to control the mind of, shall we just say, weaker souls.
I cannot do it without rabbits. I need rabbits for my research, and tea,
And Alice, I know. I have arranged for a number of test subjects to be at your disposal. They have been here at Arkham for so many years that no one will miss them. Shall we meet again next week? Oh, and I took the liberty of having your hats returned. I assume that will provide all the encouragement you require. Well done, well done. I must say you have outperformed even my wildest expectations.
Yes. Did you see the people at my tea party? They all behaved themselves.
Yes, they did, Jervis. I'm very pleased. I have just one last request to make of you. You must keep it a secret. Can you keep a secret, Jervis?
With enough hats, I can stop people remembering secrets. Does that count?
It will have to. I need you to pay a visit to Warden Sharp. He needs to come around to my way of thinking.
To join our tea party?
Exactly.
I don't want to.
Of course you do. How else will you get to play with Alice?
What?
I have a new assistant for you, Jervis. I had her brought in specially. Look at her. She's just through there.
Oh, it's Alice. She's here. No, what are you doing? I need to see her.
And you can, as soon as you do what I asked.
Can I keep her?
Of course. She'll be all yours. She's Alice.
Moving on to the night of Arkham Asylum, the Joker really wanted Jervis Tetch to take part in the Asylum riots. His name even appeared on the party list Batman takes on Harley, but the Hatter was nowhere to be seen. Batman later uncovered his belongings in the Botanical Garden glasshouse, which can be scanned to complete a riddle. An Arkham City story eventually revealed the truth as to why Jervis wasn't around. Tetch had indeed been on the island, but Strange kept him locked away in his hidden wing, buried deep beneath the Asylum, where the most dangerous inmates were tucked out of sight. Between the fall of Arkham Asylum and the creation of Arkham City, Strange made his own move on Tetch. Even after Jervis had helped essentially design the Tiger Guards and laid the groundwork for Strange's seizure of Gotham, he was thrown into Arkham City. Perhaps Strange feared that Tetch, much like the political prisoners, might expose the truth if left unchecked, so I guess he might have just done this as some damage control. Or perhaps he simply saw him as another criminal to be cast into the pit he had built. Whatever the reasoning, Jervis once again found himself caged among Gotham's worst. Unable to reclaim his hat shop near the museum in the middle of the gang war, Tetch set up his new lair in the basement of a derelict strip club in Park Row, right by the Tiger-confiscated goods vault. From there he gathered a modest gang, binding thugs to him with his devices, but he could never really compete with the armies of Penguin, Joker or Two-Face. As always, his ambition outran his reach, and once again his gaze turned towards Batman. We also find out through Arkham City that Jervis really wanted Batman's cowl, seeing it as the ultimate collector's item for people in his field. Not long after Batman saved Vicky Vale from Joker's snipers and a helicopter crash, Tetch, watching from a rooftop, lured Batman into his trap using a remote hypnotic suggestion. To the Dark Knight's mind, it was Alfred's voice, calmly explaining that Lucius Fox had finished synthesizing the cure Batman needed to save himself and bring him back to full strength. Batman headed over to the supposed drop point for the cure and injected the vial into his neck. Around him, inmates in rabbit masks sat and swayed as Jervis unveiled his twisted tea party. The cure had been nothing but a chemical trap, one more trick to force Batman into the role he has always refused. Earlier I mentioned that Jervis has often been hinted at as being a kind of evil Batman media doesn't tend to explore much, so I just wanted to give a warning for sexual assault and paedophilia here. I wanted to try and avoid it, but it's a part of the character that's often hinted at, and I'd be doing my job wrong if I didn't mention this side of the character and warn you about it. So if that isn't something you want to deal with, skip ahead to the timestamp on screen and we can continue the story from there. The theory goes that Jervis, beyond kidnapping, brainwashing and killing his victims, also sexually assaults them. This has been hinted at across Batman media, but thankfully never shown because the implication alone is enough. In one of the darkest takes on the mythos, Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth, a story which really doesn't shy away from such subjects, it's strongly suggested that Jervis is a paedophile. Both rape and paedophilia are obviously among the most vile crimes imaginable, and the suggestion that Tetch may be guilty of either, among other things, is for me what makes him so disgusting. In the Arkham games, this is never directly shown, but the short exchange between Batman and the girl we rescue in Origins we spoke about earlier has many believe Jervis is much more vile than he seems. We're not told the girl's age, and the game leaves it deliberately vague, but the way the line is written and delivered has long been theorised as a reference to sexual assault. This has been the first video I've ever researched and created that at multiple points has made me feel uneasy. Specifically this part, and listening, really listening, to Jervis's conversation with Hugo Strange in the Arkham City audio tapes. I've been a long time Mad Hatter doubter in terms of his character being interesting, and despite the fact I think I've come round to finding him at least a little bit interesting, he is by far and away for me the most disturbing and vile character in Batman's mythos. I think there are villains which subject people to horrific horrific things, Professor Pig, Joker, Dollmaker, and I'm not here to have the debate on which is worse, because that's both a very silly and very insensitive debate to even consider, but Hatter, there's just something about him, and what we don't see him do, that just creeps me out more than anyone else. It's also worth mentioning that Hatter is the only villain Batman ever directly quote-unquote insults in the series. He usually treats his villains with a level of, dare I say, respect, but upon waking up at Hatter's tea party and being told to drink some of his quote-unquote special tea, Batman tells Jervis to go to hell, and I think that speaks volumes. I think, and this is just my opinion, but Batman genuinely hates Hatter, and I think we see that slip out here. Anyway, back to some lighter subject matter. Jervis tried to crown his enemy with a grotesque rabbit cowl mask, but Batman's iron will cut through the noise as he fell down the mental rabbit hole, while fighting Jervis's men off, and even Jervis himself. He tore himself free, dismantled the hypnotised thugs, and crushed the Hatter's beloved hat. When the night was over and Batman returned to the lair, Jervis was still there, standing on a table, weeping for his lost headpiece, and whispering if Alice would be angry with him. Batman plainly told him to never touch his mind again. After Protocol 10 ended, Tetch unfortunately survived, and when the lawsuits came in the aftermath of Arkham City, he found himself richer than ever. The courts ruled that many inmates had been legally detained, and Jervis, along with the others, walked free with compensation. His fortune came at the cost of his toys, as the police confiscated his hats and his devices. Months later, during the events of the Riddler's Gambit novel, which is really worth a read if you haven't, Tetch was approached as one of Nigma's potential allies in his bid to rise as Gotham's new crime lord. He chased after relics of Ra's al Ghul, even acquiring a tooth from Killer Croc to muddy Batman's trail, and he went so far as to build a machine that could enslave the Wonder City Guardians of Wonder City. He even commandeered a casino, filling it with some of his mind control victims who pulled slot machine levers endlessly. Winners were executed on his command, a twisted parody of a winner's prize to say the least. Thankfully, Batman ended it quickly, unravelling Hatter's part in Riddler's larger game. By the time of the Arkham Knight incident, Tetch's hat and rabbit mask were locked up in the GCPD evidence room, relics of a lunatic left on display. But his obsession had not faded. When he resurfaced, he had gone further into his delusion, reshaping Alice's Adventures in Wonderland into a nightmare book about Batman himself. With restitution money, he rebuilt his technology, now able to manipulate sound at a distance. GCPD police car sirens became his new toys, and he abducted Officer Katz, McQueen, and Hutch, twisting their names into his storybook roles. Get it? Because Cheshire Cat's the McQueen of Hearts, and Officer Hutch was picked because rabbits live in hutches, which doesn't really follow the line of thought I'm sure he was going for, but I guess when you're kidnapping people based on their Alice in Wonderland based names, beggars can't be choosers. I do have to commend Jervis for this bit, this is kind of funny. Anyway, he left them in cars rigged with explosives, masks of the characters based on their respective names, and graffiti scrawled over the car. Batman, upon getting to the final car, wouldn't find another victim of Jervis, but instead a book titled Batman's Adventures in Wonderland, and to rage bait Batman just that little bit more, he even sent Officer Hutch, the third cop, back into the GCPD with a mask hidden under his uniform, turning him into the white rabbit that Batman would have to follow. When Batman got back to the interrogation room and finally opened the altered book, he was pulled into its pages. He fought through visions of Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight, respectively. No Arkham Origins, though, what's all that about? While Tetch hovered over the book, goading Batman to follow the White Rabbit, Officer Hutch, down the hole. The Hatter begged Batman to accept his role as Alice, the one figure who would never abandoned him, but Batman's will again saved him. He tore the mask from Hutch's face, shattered the illusion, and dragged Hatter to his cell next to Croc, Warden Rankin, and Ra's al Ghul. There the Hatter muttered that perhaps Batman could yet be his Alice after all. His pop-up book and his mask were then placed in the new evidence wing, which served as grim reminders of the night. Years later came his final act, thank God. Arkham Asylum had been rebuilt, now under Argus control. During Amanda Waller's orchestrated release of inmates, Tetch aligned himself with Captain Boomerang, Crazy Quilt, Spellbinder, and Hypnotic in a scramble for survival, a truly terrifying lineup of villains, and one by one they fell. Boomerang endured, and when Tetch tried to bury him in visions of the future, Boomerang cut through the fantasy and struck him with a perfectly aimed boomerang throw to the skull, and the whole world world unanimously cheered as Captain Walk-'em Down Boomerang has finally put this creep motherfucker down for good. As Tetch bled out, he asked how Boomerang had pierced his illusion. Harkness simply said that he knew it was false because he would never even live to see that age, not the way he lived anyway, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is extremely based. Jervis Tetch died there on the floor, his fantasy world collapsing with him, leaving behind only destruction and broken minds. And that is about as definitive an ending as we get for anyone in this series, dying at the hands of Captain Boomerang, lonely and bleeding on the floor. A fitting end for a monster like Jervis, I'm sure we can agree. This really was a weird video to research, and I think definitely one which has changed my perception on Hatter's role in the series, him being a huge part in creating the Tiger Guards who helped enact Protocol 10. But with that all being said, let me know what you think of Hatter down below. Thank you all for watching, it really does mean the world people show up for the videos, and I do hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time, and goodbye. Batman, clearly having played Arkham City before coming out on patrol, launched a remote control reverse Batarang and knocked the woman out. He didn't knock the woman out. Batman knocks out kidnapping victim. I believe in Batman.